Alrighty, we are back. Retired in Korea. We're going to be talking about a number of things today, so let's get started. Yeah. Welcome back. I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy. Today, retired in Korea, we're going to be talking about this stuff right up here. We're going to talk about Burger Asylum. We're going to talk about criminals running amok. We're going to talk about tattoos being legalized here in Korea, even though there's tattoo shops everywhere. Kpop lawsuit with a twist, and our trip to Vietnam, and maybe some other stuff, a couple other things. So, yeah, that's what we got going on. We're going to be taking a look at some of this stuff. Very, very interesting, and we're just going to jump right in. For those of you who don't know, before we jump right in, my wife and I, what we ended up doing is we sold everything in the United States, lock, stock, and barrel, cars, guns, ammo, ammo, car, truck, everything in the kitchen junk drawer. We showed up to Korea with just a couple of suitcases, and boom, we're retired here in Korea. So please like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. I also do 3D hobby stuff, painting miniatures, and going to get into cosplay and stuff like that with 3D printing. Miniature painting, and yeah, this other stuff, being retired in Korea. So kind of a plethora of different things. So like and subscribe, and we'll just go ahead and we'll jump into this next part here. Yeah, this is going to be interesting because we're talking about court backs asylum seeker forced to live on burgers for 150 days. Yeah, this is an interesting little one. A South Korean court recently ruled in favor of a Guinean man who challenged the Ministry of Justice decision to dismiss his request for refugee status. And yeah, the Busan District Court said the head of Gimhae Airport Immigration Office must cancel the decision not to process the man's application for refugee status. The man, who is in his 30s, applied for refugee status when he arrived on the airport. The Justice Ministry, however, decided not to refer his case for examination. In response, the man refused to return to his home and has since remained in temporary holding in the airport for those denied entry. It's going to get weird. The man claimed refugee status, saying that he fled political persecution in Guinea after whatever it is, after participating in protests against military dictatorship. The ministry didn't move ahead with the refugee screening process as it found the plaintiff's statements lacked credibility. What are the odds? The man filed a lawsuit against the airport's immigration office with assistance of a local human rights organization. Although we won the first trial, we need to wait and see whether the Justice Ministry will file an appeal. They raised concerns about the man's treatment at the airport, saying that it was clear human rights violations, in other words, 150 days of eating burgers. But then again, wasn't there that guy who ate Burger King for a long time? And yeah, okay, so there's that, but that ended up being a scam. Yeah, it's the plaintiff received a burger for every meal, saying the Refugee Act states that basic food, clothing, and shelter will be provided to applicants in the airport's holding area. Korea's got some pretty good burgers. That's all I'm going to say. The Human Rights Organization raised concerns that the plaintiff is expected to remain in the holding area until the final ruling is made. Refugee applicants at Incheon Airport, whose cases are not referred, are reportedly transferred to a waiting facility outside the airport if they appeal and win their cases in the first trial. Gimhae Airport has no such designated facility. So we're going to talk about this. A bunch of burgers. Mom's Touch. That's actually, that Mom's Touch burgers is some pretty good burgers. If I was going to have a burger, and it would probably be Mom's Touch. I mean, that's not bad. It's here's the thing that gets me. When we're talking about, we're talking about Korea, we're talking about people coming to Korea, and what they want to end up doing is claiming asylum. And unfortunately, this raised some interesting things online because I found this on Facebook, and of course the article was posted here, and then people on Facebook started going insane. And what's amazing is that other immigrants here in Korea are demanding that this person's request for asylum be granted. even though he had conflicting statements. And I just find it interesting. It's like, well, where is he going to go? Well, that's not our problem. That's not the problem of Korea. Just because someone files for asylum doesn't mean that you have to automatically grant that request. A lot of things come into play here. Now, the interesting thing about Guyana, or whatever the name is, it is hugely corrupt. It is basically a criminal state, and there's money laundering, there's sex trafficking, there's drugs. Their government is corrupt. Again, it's possible that there's some political persecution there. But isn't it interesting that most of these refugees are always single males in their 20s and 30s? And, what was this guy? This guy, who's in his 30s. Yes, it's never the family together that comes and says, oh, we're filing asylum. It's always the single dude who you can't really verify, especially from a country like that, whether he's a criminal or, Lord forbid, like in other countries, they will send people to claim asylum and request asylum in a certain country, and then those people will set up drug trafficking, human sex trafficking rings, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, a lot of criminals are expanding their horizons by sending people to countries to claim asylum for political persecution, and then they're allowed to stay in the country, and the next thing you know, they're involved in all types of crime. And the thing that got me was that on this Facebook discussion, of course, we all know how online Facebook discussions go in social media. You had some people that were pro, there were some people that were con, some people that were like, oh, okay, burgers, wow, that's a lot of burgers, maybe you should have something else, maybe a, tortilla or Taco Bell or, something a little, maybe some pizza, I don't know. So you get that wide range of responses. The interesting thing is that there was a number of people who commented on this article who were foreigners living in Korea, demanding, nay, even to the point of where it's like talking down to Korea as if they are obligated. They have no choice but to agree and assign this guy asylum because they are notoriously against asylum seekers. And my response to that is, so what? It's their country. Just because somebody files for asylum does not mean that that country has to automatically approve those things. I mean, there's things like background checks, there's interviews, and they go through a series of questions, and they go through the questions again and again and again. And obviously this person's remarks were very conflicting. So it seems like it's a little bit of a shady deal here going on. And he's, nope, sorry, and unfortunately, in my opinion, he should have been deported back to his own country. If you, hey, I'm a political prisoner. Yeah, I'm a political prisoner here. You see, all these things that are happening in my country, the corruption. I'm a single guy. I revolted, and now I'm going to endanger and fear for my life. So I'm going to come here. You see what I'm saying? I find that really hard to believe. So many people that are getting to the place of where they think that refugees, whenever they go to any country, should automatically demand and be granted asylum. That just blows my mind. There's something to be said for the sovereignty of a nation and a country that they should be able to say, you know what? Let's weigh the pros and cons here. Let's do a risk analysis, and we find that the country that you're from and the answers that you gave are very suspect, so we're denying your request. Boom, get on a plane and go. The fact that he was able to say, I refuse, and I'm not going to go anywhere, that just blows my mind that is even allowed. I'm on the side of where, I'm pro borders. I'm pro immigration as long as it's legal and as long as you meet the standards of the country that you're going in, and that also includes asylum seekers. But there's also Koreans that are defected from North Korea that are coming in that are asking for asylum. So which one should you give precedence to? Which one should you give the nod to more? The guy from, an African country that is wrought with crime, and Lord knows he could be a criminal or an escape, a prisoner that was just sent. That would never happen, would it? Think back to our history back in the United States with the Cuba thing way back in the day and JFK, and they what was the movie Scarface, and they just sent a bunch of their prisoners from Cuba to the United States, and you ended up with guys like Scarface, which was kind of a wild movie back in the day. With that being said, there are criminal organizations that will send people to act as if they are refugees. And then once they get into the country, they'll set up criminal networks, gangs and drugs and eggs trafficking and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I am totally on the side of, hey, you don't fit the bill. We're just not feeling the vibe. You got to go. So there's that there. It's just something... and the fact that, there are people in the country that are on the side of this asylum seeker who doesn't have a family, whose responses are suspect, and that they don't find credible, that he is allowed to file an appeal. And to file a lawsuit, that just blows my mind. That for some reason, the country cannot maintain its own sovereignty. And there's actually organizations in the world, OECD, I think it is, that somebody mentioned, is that supposedly if you belong to this organization within the world, that you're obligated to take in foreigners and asylum seekers and refugees and so on and so forth, which I think undermines a country's sovereignty. Because then, just all you got to do is look at the past, the recent past, like the things in Cuba. Of course, that was a little bit a while ago. But when you look at the refugees that have flooded other countries throughout the world, and you look at these refugees, and they're all guys in their 20s, maybe 30s at the most, no women, no children, and it's like, where are the women and children? You're claiming refugee status because you're in fear for your life, and your family's back there. Why didn't you bring them? And then what we end up finding is that the criminal organizations, gangs, drugs, and all that other stuff. So anyway, yeah, I side on the air of caution, and it's like, it's like somebody coming to my house. If I invite somebody into my house, or somebody just comes and knocks on my door. Here's the thing. If somebody comes and knocks on my door and tries to come in, and it's like, oh, wait a second, I don't know who you are. Who are you? Well, let's take a look and kind of get some information here. What's your name? Where are you from? What did you do? Before I let anybody into my house, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions because I'm really particular in who I invite into my home. And if I'm not feeling it and I'm not getting that vibe that you're being truthful and honest, or maybe it's like, things don't check out, I'm just not going to invite you into my home. I'm going to tell you to kick rocks. So, it is what it is. And there's something to be said. And it's like, the other side of the coin is like, well, we need to take in all these refugees. And it's like, how's that working out for France, UK, Germany, all of these other countries that took all these refugees, and their crime rates have skyrocketed. And that's what you get when you don't properly vet. So it is what it is. But it's interesting that he had 150 days to live on Mom's Burgers. So we got that going on. Next thing we're going to talk about, since we're on the topic of criminals, let's go ahead and jump into this here. Nearly 2,500 convicted criminals remain at large here in Korea. Yeah. Over 2,000 criminals have fled after being sentenced to jail, remain on the run as of June, the ministry said. A report by Song Sok-jun of the main opposition People Power Party, which is kind of the conservative group, compiled ministry data on the proportion of convicts' prison terms with or without physical labor that have been served as of June. The cumulative 4,296 convictions as of January had yet to be carried out. 2,440 convicts remain at large as of June. This is mostly due to the convicts fleeing. Fleeing. In other words, you went to court, you were charged, you were found guilty, you got a punishment, and somehow they fled. They fled. They flew the coop. And they're currently hiding. Data shows that 1,135 are currently hiding in the country of Korea, while 1,220 of them have left South Korea. A total of 229 have escaped justice for at least 3 years as of June, up to 169 last year. The failure to apprehend convicts presents a problem for authorities, as there is a limited time for punishments to be executed after sentencing. Why? This is called the period of prescription under Article 78 of the Criminal Act and varies from 1 year for punishments of detention or minor fine, or 20 years for life imprisonment. According to the ministry, their prescriptions will expire on the run since 2020, including 9 this year. 21 more criminals will escape justice if they are not apprehended within 6 months. The arrest rate of escaped convict hovers around 50-60%, range each year, but the figures are, seriously? Really? I don't get that. Period of prescription. So in other words, you can commit crimes here in Korea, and then for some odd reason, you're convicted, you're supposed to go to prison, but you just don't show up. So in other words, you're on your own recognizance, and they're like, oh, okay, well, you've been charged, you're going to get 10, 15, 20 years in prison. And then they have this thing called a period of prescription, where if 6 months, that is insane. There's a limited time for punishments to be executed after sentencing. That is insane. I mean, that's like saying, okay, well, if somebody's convicted of rape or, other heinous crimes, and then, or even not heinous crimes, just crimes, period. You broke the law, and now you're getting to a place of where, hey, oh, well, if I just hide out in the countryside somewhere, or go to another country, which boggles my mind. How do you get to another country if you have committed crimes, have been charged and sentenced? How are you allowed to go to another country? I don't understand that. And the fact that if you just wait and then you just wait and you won't have to serve your sentence. That is insane. It says this figure went up each year from 815 in 2020 to 1,220. Those are the ones who fled to other countries. But I mean, it's crazy. Executing the punishment is directly linked to the trust of the justice system. Those whose punishment has not been executed could commit additional crime in hiding, which means it is important to capture them early and make their punishment make sure their punishment is carried out. That is insane. Prescription Act can be for 1 year or 20 years for life in prison. So there's a range of time of which, if you commit a crime, you just hide out in Korea, or apparently you can just leave Korea and go to some other country and live and wait your time or this period of prescription. And then once that's up, it's like, I'm guilty, I was charged, I was punished, I didn't show up to go to prison, and I just kind of hung out in Korea or some other country until this time period went by, and boom, now I'm free from being punished. That does not make any sense at all. I don't know what Korea was thinking when they made this law. That just seems highly suspect. It's the why. I was the person that was like, well, why? Why is this way? or why do we do this, or why is that happening, and why. But this is insane. Why would you have a law that says, well, hey, we have this period of prescription under Article 78 that, the Criminal Act, that if you get punished, but you don't show up and you hide out for a certain amount of time based on the severity of your crime, that you don't have to actually go to prison. That sounds like a wonderful idea. Let's make it so. Seriously? That is insane. I don't get that. That boggles my mind. What is the saying? Justice delayed is justice denied, or whatever. Justice delayed is justice denied, or whatever it is. I just totally don't get that at all. That is insane. So, yeah, it is kind of an interesting little thing here that that you can actually skirt the system, escape punishment, and not have to do your time. But that begs the question: if you go to court, you're charged, you get a punishment, and you're supposed to go to prison for X amount of time, and then you escape and flee and just hide out in Korea, and then after a certain amount of time, the punishment is null and void. What do you think people are going to do? I'm going to spend 6 years in prison, or if I'm just going to hide out until this time of prescription is over, and then I won't have to do my prison time? What do you think people are going to do? Especially if somebody doesn't want to go to prison. I don't know. I worked in prison for over 11 years in the United States, and it's like, even then, it's just why? And this is an interesting thing, this period of prescription, when we talk a little bit later about a nuisance streamer at the end here. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, but we're going to jump back into the rest of the stuff, talking about tattoos. If you know anything about Korea, tattooing is illegal, or at least it was illegal. It is now, apparently, it is legal. South Korea legalizes tattooing by non-medical professionals after 33 years. Now, for those of you who are wondering, tattooing was illegal, even though you see tons of tattoo shops. They're advertised on Google, and Naver, the whole 9 yards. Shops are set up everywhere. Policemen go by and see these shops. Hey, hey, how you doing? Fine, But it's an illegal tattoo shop. But there's no enforcement. There has been no enforcement. It's just kind of like it's against the law. We're just going to turn a blind eye. I've got a little bit of ink. But the thing is that now it's legalized. And before, when it was illegal, only a doctor could do tattooing. Yeah, I don't know how they came to do that law. But it ends up that, it's, now tattoo artists are, they're saying yay. Has been legalized for the first time in 33 years following the National Assembly's passage of a new law professionalizing the tattoo industry. The Tattoo Act, with 195 votes in favor and 7 abstentions out of 202, permits non-medical professionals to perform tattoos, a practice that has long existed in a legal gray area despite being widely popular and practiced underground. It's been illegal since 1992, as it defined it as a medical procedure under the Medical Services Act. Only licensed doctors were allowed to administer tattoos, and I'll tell you, from living here in Korea and being retired here, doctors don't do tattoos. So there's the risk of arrest, but like I said, there's tattoo parlors everywhere. So especially where we live, close to a U.S. military base, there's just big, huge signs saying tattoo and whatever. Anyway, it comes up that only those who pass a national exam or obtain a license will be allowed to practice, which apparently is going to be a thing. That's going to be a huge thing now because everybody's going to get their license. However, the law does not permit tattoo removal by non-medical professional, which remains restricted, which, that you would think that would be the same thing, because basically you're doing a tattoo, the laser, you should get some type of training and certification. There's, obviously, but that's probably next on the list. The law also includes several public safety measures They'll be required to complete hygiene and safety training. They keep detailed records of each procedure, including the date, types and quantities of ink used, and the body area tattooing. Tattooing minors without parental consent is strictly prohibited. Law will take effect 2 years after its official promulgation, whatever, after it becomes real. An additional 2-year transitional period will allow for provisional restrictions, registrations, and other special measures for existing practitioners. This bill can now people can receive a tattoo safely, with tattoo professionals can finally be recognized as legal experts. I'll make sure the system is properly implemented until the end. So yeah, it's kind of a good thing there, I think. Now everybody and their grandmother is going to be getting tattoos. So, but for the longest time in Korea, tattoos were verboten. It was not a thing. And I remember way back in the day, it wasn't like today where you can walk down the streets of Seoul and you can see tattoo parlors. Even before it was just legalized, I remember you had to find people. I remember that you had to go down dark alleyways and, hey, I know a guy, and this Korean guy knows another Korean guy who knows a Korean guy whose cousin, twice removed, does tattoos. And I actually did one of those, and it was a hush-hush thing. And I was in the military, and so it was really, really, really frowned upon and forbidden. And at that time, I got a little bit of, I had like a hawk that was put up on here that actually, there was something else under there. I got the hawk to cover it. What was that other thing? I can't even remember what it was. Wow. Huh. I don't know what it was. Anyway, what are the odds? Yep, I'm old. So anyway, I remember back in the day when getting a tattoo in Korea was really, really hard. Now, if you walk outside, even prior to this, you could walk down the street of Rodeo Drive here in Anjongni, which is right close to Camp Humphreys, the U.S. military base. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 different tattoo shops that I know right off the top of my head. And then, there's others. I mean, it's just, they're all over the place. And they're heavily advertised. Big, huge, giant signs. Tattoos, whatever, since 2001 or 1999 or whatever. All of these people are getting tattoos, but now it's just finally legalized. So it's kind of weird being in Korea because you see things to where, tattooing is illegal, but then we're going to let criminals go and not serve their prison sentence if they, that time of prescription, they're just going to, forget it. You're supposed to go to prison. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of different things here in Korea. So with that being said, it's just kind of crazy. And talking about crazy, we're going to talk about this Kpop lawsuit. Now, I'm not Kpop. I am totally not Kpop. I mean, there's people who love Kpop. They love K-drama. I have to make a confession. There's only one show that I actually liked, and that was Extraordinary Woo. That was about that autistic lawyer here in Korea. It was a 1-season show, and I kind of got a kick out of that. I thought that was a cute show, but other than that, I'm not a big K-drama fan. I'm not a big K-pop fan. But this one is interesting because the lawsuit is very different than what you think. This, and it's also disturbing when you start thinking about it. So let's dig into this. Virtual K-pop band wins lawsuit against men for calling them ugly. That's the virtual K-pop band. In other words, it's a cartoon. It's virtual. There's people behind it, but you don't know who they are, and these are their avatars, if you will. The South Korean court has ruled in favor of K-pop boy band who sued a man for criticizing their appearances online. Let's see if we can get this to where we can read this. K-pop group Plave is a virtual boy band made up of 5 members: Yejun, Noah, Bambi, Unho, and Hamin. Much like VTubers, who are represented by heavily stylized virtual avatars instead of showing their real faces and bodies, and use motion capture technology to record their choreography. So in other words, technology has gotten to the place where now you have people that can be, I'm not handsome, but somebody like me could have a Korean K-pop avatar, and then with voice changing and all that other stuff, I could be a K-pop virtual singer. And apparently this is a big, huge thing. But even more disturbing is the fact that there's this lawsuit. The group made their debut with their single album, Asylum. Their name, Plave, is a combination of the English word for play and the French word for dream. So play dream, and there they are. It's like, I don't know, is this going to play? No. Configuration error, whatever. No one knows the real identities of the performers behind the animated idols, but that hasn't stopped them from capturing fans in both in and out of South Korea, taking accolades from South Korea Seoul Music Awards and winning Song of the Year in 2024. Who knew? Who knew? While K-pop groups and VTubers are steadily growing in global popularity, they aren't everyone's cup of tea, as one South Korean man remarked in an incident that's taking social media by storm. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Korean man sued for calling virtual K-pop band ugly. Filed a lawsuit against an unnamed man for making negative comments on X regarding the band's members' virtual appearances. His comments, as recorded by the Korea Times, insinuated that the real performers behind the band could be ugly in real life, describing them as having a typical Korean man vibe. Oof. Taking offense to this, VLAST took legal action demanding the man pay each member of Plave 6.5 million won for causing them emotional distress, emotional damage. That just... can we play this? Can we see what this is? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I want to get a strike on here, but I think what we'll do is we'll just play it without the volume. And so, yeah, it's a little animated cartoon deal thing here that you got going on. I don't get it. You know, doing all that stuff. But the thing is it absolutely could be true. What the guy said. It could be, it could be that they are not attractive. But despite arguing that his remarks were merely targeting the virtual characters and not the real people behind them, the courts disagreed with the man's stance. However, they significantly lowered the amount, instead awarding 100,000 won per member after debating the severity of the man's comments. In the area of the metaverse, an avatar is more than a virtual image. It is a means of expression for the user, their identity, and by their way of communicating with society, the court stated, as reported by the BBC. They continue to plead their case, appealing the court's damages, saying that their case sets a key precedent for future virtual idol groups. This is just the latest story centering on virtual avatars that are going viral. Earlier in September, a VTuber agency garnered praise and curiosity for launching a rental granny service to help young people receive guidance from elders. But the fact here, you have a virtual avatar group. The guy says it's possible that they are not attractive, that they are ugly behind the scenes. In other words, the real people behind the avatars aren't attractive as the avatars. And they took great offense to this, and there is so much emotional, so much emotional distress that they filed a lawsuit against this guy for his opinion. And the court sided. Where does this go? This is what bothers. The thing that bothers me about this is that, okay, so any picture or any representation, I mean, it's not a far leap to say, well, anything that I put online can now, if I feel that I'm offended, that I can file a lawsuit. And oh, by the way, there are some precedents for that because of this lawsuit here. This guy sued and, got sued by, this Kpop, virtual Kpop group, Plave. And, Your Honor, so I was deeply emotionally distressed and offended. And it just hurt me. And really, we're going to allow this? This is crazy. I mean, in the United States, you can sue anybody for anything. We all know that. But the fact that this was given credence just blows my mind. Because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it absolutely could be that the people behind the virtual avatars are normal-looking people, or they could be ugly, or they could be beautiful, but the person who made the comment doesn't see that as being beautiful or attractive. Again, it's all subjective, but yet the court said, oh, well, we're going to side. Big K-pop, virtual K-pop group, albums, tons of money. A little bit of corruption. I don't know. But it's just amazing. And here's how I feel. In my opinion, if somebody says that I'm ugly, it's like, so? And? Next? Whatever? Emotional distress, I don't remember that growing up. It just, if you didn't like somebody, hey, you're ugly. Well, you're fat. Well, you're skinny. You're this, you're that. Okay, well, let's go get a burger, whatever. I mean, it didn't really matter. People had thicker skin. But the fact now that our society, and even here in Korea, is littered with lawsuits, and now to the point of where, oh, well, you said something that a virtual avatar in their group didn't like, and so you can get sued, and they won, and now they're going to appeal and try to get all of that. And for just for reference, 6,500,000 won divided by, I think it's around 1340 is the exchange rate. That's $4,800, $4,850 for all of the group members. That's a lot of money. So for 100,000 divided by 1340, that's going to come out to about $75 for each member. So again, there's a huge disparity. But the thing that bothers me is that the court sided and said, oh, this is wrong. Oh, you were emotionally distressed. Oh, let us step in and file. Seriously? We need old judges that are like, so? Next. Just this is a frivolous lawsuit. You're going to have people that are, because now this sets a deadly precedence of whatever you say online is at risk of, being a victim of a lawsuit just because somebody doesn't like it, kind of like what we see in the United States and other countries. It's very, I don't know how I feel about that. That just, that just isn't a good thing. I'm just not feeling that. Because what do? Does that mean, well, my opinion is that this isn't attractive to me, but the person who I said it wasn't attractive to me takes offense and there's emotional distress and they file a lawsuit. Now I'm the bad guy? They're the victim? I'm the criminal? Come on, seriously. I mean, not long ago there was the Korean War and people fought and died and the whole nine yards and pulled themselves up by their bootstraps to rebuild Korea in a couple of generations from absolutely nothing to hard work and all this stuff. And now it's like, he said something mean to me. Sue him on my avatar. I mean, seriously, really, man up, woman up, whatever it is, people up. That I just find. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Okay. Anyway, we're going to continue on this talk about, you know, this Korean lawsuit. But since we're talking about crime, and that seems to be kind of a theme right now, we're going to talk about something that is actually proactive, which I didn't think would make a difference here in Korea, but apparently it does. Holographic police. Yeah, it's a thing here in Korea. So let's go. Who knew? Who knew? Yeah, here it is. South Korea has hologram police, and they actually work for deterring crime. But then again, Korea is a lot better when it comes to crime by not doing crime because people have more respect for each other here in Korea. At least that's what I found out. And but a holographic policeman. This is kind of wild. So there it is. South Korea has implemented a hologram police officers, a projection of an officer who stands near populated areas to make citizens feel safer. What was that movie with Stallone? Wesley's Demolition Man. Remember how soft and touchy-feely and weak and soft everybody was? And yeah, this kind of reminds me of that. But let's continue on because this actually works. Although the cop isn't real, it does actually work for deterring crime. Wow, that is absolutely crazy. Isn't a hologram policeman basically just a scarecrow for potential criminals? Basically, yes. But there are a few extra bells and whistles that make it more than just that. Between AI-powered camera detection, which there's a lot of that in Korea, a schedule in which the hologram speaks, and actual officers keeping an eye on the holograms that are set up, it's been a pretty successful venture for police in the area, even if it looks a little dystopian. Don't mind the dystopianness of what is going on. No, just where are we going? South Korea implements this hologram police. It works. It's projected onto a piece of acrylic. It also plays a short scripted police statement, reminding people that police presence is there, even if there isn't an actual officer in sight. And that's due to the CCTV cameras. Officer Kim Hyun-dun claimed the crime dropped as much as 22% in areas of Seoul where this was implemented, while speaking with DW News, saying it has an impact when it comes to deterring impulsive crimes. This goes back to, for those of you who know, I was in the military, I was in law enforcement, I was worked in the prison system, and there's levels, there's force levels of force or use of force levels, and one of those is officer presence, which is the lowest thing there, is just to have an officer there, and the fact that there is an officer there will deter somebody from doing an impulsive crime because, oh, there's somebody of authority there. I better not do this. So in this case, actually, I wasn't too surprised. But the fact that it is a hologram and it's just an image, but it's also combined with CCTV and PTZ cameras and where officers are actually monitoring that area. And that's what the hologram ends up saying is that, hey, we're watching and blah, 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 to keep you safe and blah, all that good stuff. So hence it is that officer presence on that use of force continuum where people see that and they're like, oh, okay, well, I better not do anything stupid. What are the odds? But yeah, it actually works. I was pretty impressed that it was 22%. So anyway, want to see a hologram police officer watch over your street in South Korea? This is no longer science fiction. So there he is. It's just kind of put up on to the acrylic there, pops up, boom. Life-size virtual police. Every 2 minutes, a video appears on an acrylic display. AI-controlled cameras simultaneously monitor the area. So anyway, he came up with the idea, and it ends up that it actually works. So drunken violence, disputes, bars and restaurants in the area are popular with tourists and locals. Looks like a regular officer. And it feels like there is a police officer. Makes me feel safer personally. Even though it can't defend itself, and no one has dared to challenge it. So yeah, kind of an interesting little thing there. After introducing this holographic officers, crime rates dropped approximately 22%. The biggest impact was on impulsive crimes, drunken violence, disputes, etc. Citizens claimed felt like an actual officer was there, even if there wasn't one there directly. In a lot of ways, there is. And that's with the cameras and the monitoring and all that stuff. Despite looking something ripped straight out of Blade Runner or Demolition Man, Seoul's police department has had some encouraging success with this new crime-stopping measure and may look to implement it in more areas soon. So yeah, and there's already been discussion about, well, why they should do this in America, and it's like there's places in America where this would not work at all, and there's a reason for that, because a lot of people in Korea, they have more respect for each other. There's really low crime rate because of that respect, and that is a huge thing. And that's again one of the big reasons was crime, or the lack of crime, I should say, and that the people respect more. They're polite. We don't have as many problems in that aspect as we did in the United States, which crime is an ever-increasing problem, and it does here too in Korea, but not at the extent of what it does in the United States. So, could you do this in the United States? Yeah, maybe in some nice areas of the United States, but if you put it in hoods or, bad neighborhoods or whatever it is, probably this would not deter crime at all. And hell, you've got people that are committing crimes in the United States in full view of police, and they don't care. So yeah, but the fact that it works here in Korea, I thought that was pretty interesting. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff that we got going on. Next thing we're going to talk about is the recent trip that we took to Vietnam. We just got back a couple nights ago, and we're trying to recover from that. Vietnam, we went to Hanoi for a few days, and then we took a 9-hour, 10-hour night train, not the type you drink, but a night train with a sleeper car to Sapa, 200 kilometers away about-ish. And then we went to Phanxapan, which is the highest mountain in Indochina there, which was 1,143 meters, or just over 10,000 feet. So yeah, it wasn't like, it was cool to see, but being from Colorado and being up on 14ers and stuff like that, it is what it is. But it was a good vacation. So I wanted to kind of go over the pictures, and kind of go over some of the stuff that we ended up doing. So there is when we were getting on the plane. Yeah, yay, peace! We're going to Vietnam. 4-hour plane ride from Korea to Hanoi, which was kind of interesting, and it goes over China. A lot of that. Pretty decent trip. Expenses, like this is an example of the bus ride. A 45-minute bus ride to the hotel in the old city from the airport was $45,000, or $1.80. Yeah, things are really inexpensive in Vietnam, so that was kind of cool. And there we're at the Timeline restaurant, which was in the old city. It was kind of like it had a balcony view and everything. We had our first real pho with Hanoi beer and spring rolls. That was incredible. It was really, 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 really good. So we loved that. And I'm not a big pho person. And there are some pictures of, yay, Vietnam. In case you didn't know, it's a communist country. But amazing on how many businesses were there is just really, really interesting to see. And yeah, there's another one. If you notice the train tracks down at the bottom, that's the train that we ended up taking. The train would go on these tracks that would go from Hanoi to Sapa, which that 10-hour ride was really interesting. And then there's also some stuff there. Again, they're really patriotic. The display of their flag is in a lot of places, tons of places. So there's some church, yeah, some church action there. And as there are churches in Vietnam, they are state sanctioned and you have to sign up and whatever. So there are churches, what they preach or whatever, I don't know. But this is a big tourist spot. So we got some pictures there, me and the wife, and the wife. And then getting onto the train, it ends up, this is the car that we had. Now this car was kind of interesting because it was a shared car. So you have the bunk beds, and we ended up having a couple people with us. But those bunk beds, oh my gosh, the padding was like a prison bed. Don't ask me how I know that, but it was like a prison bed, and that's where my back didn't like that at all, because the bunk that was up top, when it's down like that, and of course it's always down like that, it's like me crawling under my desk, and I'm 6'2" and 260 pounds, so yeah, it was not comfortable. My back didn't like it. It was bad for my back. But the train ride wasn't too bad, and again, there's another view of and it was narrow. I mean, that's pretty narrow. It is pretty narrow. It was pretty small. A lot of small people in Vietnam. So anyway, we get up to Sapa, and in Sapa, they have a man-made lake there, and this is the view that you can see. One of the views that you can see, and it was just absolutely beautiful. The architecture, the old and the new, and then just all kinds of people from all kinds of different places vacationing there and checking it out. And crime wasn't bad. Crime wasn't bad. We didn't experience much. There were some things that we did experience that you should be a lookout for. But this whole trip was our anniversary. The wife and I have been together for 35 years, so the trip to Vietnam and Sapa was going to be the deal. So yeah, that worked out well. Great trip. There is Sun Plaza or Sapa Station, and that is where you can get your tickets and get on the train to go. There's like a little train ride, and then to go up to Fansipan, there's a train car, there's a cable car, which is the world's largest or longest cable car, and then there's another little cable train, and then you can walk up to the top, and it's pretty cool. Sapa has a lot of cool places, and during the day it is visually stimulating. It is incredible, and even at night it is even more so. So we got up to Fansipan, we got up to the top there, and there is, yay, we made it to the top, and there's me holding the flag, and if you noticed, my fingers are crossed. So veterans, you know what I'm talking about. You see the crossed fingers there. So anyway, it was kind of an interesting little trip there. It was kind of overcast, as you can tell from the pictures. We did get some views, but it was better than most because the next day it was cloudy. Other days it was rainy. So it's really hard to get a nice day to be able to see everything. And again, we went during the office season. Usually the big tourist season for Sapa is in November, December, and January, and a little bit into February. That's their dry season. So we went in September because that's our anniversary, and it was still a great trip. Hanoi was like in the 90s, and the humidity was in the 90s, 100%, and it was just absolutely miserable. I mean, it gets more bearable during the November to January, February timeframe. It will actually get more palatable, I guess you could say, in regards to weather. The time that we went, it was just miserable. I was sweating all over the place. And I run hot anyway. For my wife, it was a little bit better, but for me, I was just Hanoi in that 90, 95, almost 100-degree temperatures, and then with high 90 humidity, it just sucked the life out of me. And for both of us. And it got to the point of where my wife was like, oh, let's just go find AC. And we actually ended up taking a city bus tour in the old city. We did it up top because it was a double-decker bus, and it was still hot. And we got some video of that. But then we did the tour again because down on the first level of the bus was air conditioning. So one night we just paid and got on the bus just for the air conditioning. So yeah, it ends up, it's pretty hot. So anyway, it ends up That was Fanspan. We went to some other places. You've probably seen this on Instagram, and there's a place where we actually found this. This was close to Cat Cat. We're on the way to Cat Cat, which we didn't get to, but we got here. This hotel is Saos, Saos hotel, and you pay a price. You get a coffee along with the price, and then you can go take pictures with all these places. And the view is outstanding. I mean, that is incredible there. There's another one there. As you can see the view. Again, they had the hand. They got the two things there that you ended up seeing. They got the little piano action there. And again, the views are stunning. And that's not even, that's maybe a third of the view. So if you went to the left side, there's even more. So, and then there was that there. That was pretty cool. I like that picture. And the statue there. Again, the views are incredible there. This was at a little coffee shop that we found that was kind of in that same valley that overlooks. So just a small little coffee shop. And that was incredible. So that, I mean, crazy views. It's just incredible. The clouds going by. It was beautiful. Drinking your coconut coffee. This was a picture. I just wanted to get this picture and showing the different types of buildings. And this was at the train station going to Sapa. So this was a train station that we went to, and this was looking out of the train station and just seeing some of the local stuff, you know, the communist propaganda or patriotism of their government. They use the word democracy a lot in all of their posters. Interesting. Did I say things in Vietnam were smaller than normal? That's. I know I'm big, but this is kind of a normal thing. So when you go to Vietnam, you'll see a lot of people. They'll be in coffee shops. They'll be eating street side food vendors and things like that, and they'll have real tiny chairs. And chair is kind of. They're smaller chairs that they use. So. This was at Cone Coffee, so we ended up getting our favorite is Cone Coffee, the coconut iced coffee, which I'm going to learn how to make. But it was really kind of interesting to see this dynamic, and chairs are really small. We ended up again going back to the timeline. That restaurant was awesome. That was the last night that we ended up being there. I'm not going to do all the pictures of everything. But it ends up that's the last one there. Our last night we did a little beer tasting and had pho and everything. Of course, we had our coconut coffee, and it ended up we had a really, really good time in Vietnam. So with that, I highly recommend it. I think it was like the cost for Vietnam for the airfare. Again, it's like a 4-hour plane ride. We took economy, which was small. Asiana Airlines, I don't think we'll ever use them again. They were just so lacking, and especially on the trip back. The air conditioning wasn't working, so when we got on the plane, it felt like it was 90 degrees, and then there was delays, and then the plane wouldn't start, and then it would start, and then the air conditioning wasn't working, and then they turned the plane off again. They tried to reset it and turn it on again, and no apologies from anybody. You know, usually the captain comes on board, hey, we're having a little bit of a delay, we want to apologize. No, we didn't get any of that. So it was just miserable. And it was so hot. I was sweating so much that I ended up breaking out. And I had severe breakouts because of the heat. His heat rash was just incredible. People were miserable. And they're working on the plane. Of course, all the plane doors are closed. There's no air. And so you've got hundreds of people inside the plane that are all hot, and it's already hot, and there's no air conditioning. It was just a miserable experience on our trip back. But since we talked about a bunch about crime and things on some of this other stuff here in Korea, some wild stuff, let's talk about crime in Vietnam. A lot of people were like, oh, you got to watch out for pickpockets. They're going to pick your pocket, any pocket, and you should get like a money belt that you hide in your shorts and have your shirt over it. We didn't experience any pickpocketing. Maybe it's because I'm 6'2" and 260, and maybe the small pickpockets didn't saw me and were like, yeah, we're not going near that. But we didn't experience any of that. Obviously, you need to keep track of your stuff, but I have my wallet in my cargo shorts pocket and have my phone in my other cargo short pocket, and didn't have money in my front pockets. We didn't experience any problems whatsoever. But we did not leave our purse or phone or anywhere and then go to the bathroom and then come back. No, because we know that could be a thing. But we did experience some problems with people trying to scam us out of money. Okay. And usually it's during the money exchange. That happens sometimes. You will see videos on that. And if they're in a hurry, that should be a red flag. If they're trying to, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. If they grab your money out of your hand, don't let them do that. Hell no, hell no. Take your time. Say, okay, well, this is, I have $300 I want to exchange. What is the exchange rate? Do the math, show the calculator. Most of them have calculators. But some of them, because of the different denominations and the different color money and you're not used to it, they'll try to slide a 10,000 when it should have been 100,000. And so you got to watch. And so we took videos when we exchanged money. And luckily, at the times that we did exchange money, they saw that we were recording, and so we didn't have any problems. But could be that they were good people. But I'm just saying, it's when you recorded, we didn't have any problems. What we did have problems with were the larger restaurants and giving back change, and it was like, whoa, wait a second now. No, this is this and this is this, and you gave me this, and that's not what this is, or what it should be. So you need to be careful on the change thing. The other thing that we ended up doing is that people would ask, or people said that, you got to use Grab. Grab is a taxi service, kind of like Uber, and you get on your app and you find out, it has where you are, your current location, and you look through Google Maps, you copy the name of some place that you want to go, you put it into Grab in the app, you can get an estimate and seeing how much it's going to cost, and it's dirt cheap. Grab is dirt cheap, and about 20, maybe 25, 30% of the fee goes to Grab. The remainder of that fee goes to the driver. Most people are like, oh, use Grab because you won't get scammed. No, you can get scammed off of Grab, and we actually did get scammed. We used Grab, we scheduled Grab, the Grab taxi came and picked us up, and it's kind of like independent contractor type thing. People sign up for Grab like you sign up for Uber or Lyft or whatever. Well, he dropped us off about 5-10 minutes away from our destination because he got a phone call, and apparently he's going to make some more money. And so it's like, oh, here's your destination. It's like, no, that's not it. And then he starts playing stupid. Ding, dang, dang, bang, 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 and doing that whole thing and putting his hands up like this. So he's trying to do a scam. And it was like, no, take us to where we're supposed to go. And this area that he dropped us off, totally dark, basically no people. It's like, oh, and then he starts getting mad, and it's like, okay, what do I do here? Because then it's like, do you push the issue? Now, remember on Grab that you can rate these people. So on the rating, yeah, we downed him pretty bad, and it was a thing. But don't think that just because you're using Grab that you're free from any type of intimidation or scams or anything, because there are Grab drivers that will just drop you off because they got another call that offers more money, and they'll just drop you there. So again, that happened to us. It's not something that happens a lot, but it can, so be aware of that. So that might be something, is that if you do Grab and you're kind of nervous, take your phone and video I could video my wife's phone and show the Grab and show where we're going, and then when you get into the Grab taxi, hey, this is where we're going to go, and show him and video him in the whole 9 yards. So that way he's on camera, and that will that'll kind of put some pressure on him to deliver you to where you want to go. Now, again, all of the other Grab taxis that we got, no problem whatsoever. And being around the old city in Sapa and stuff like that, especially we're in Vietnam, or in Hanoi for that matter. In Hanoi, where the temperature was terrible, it's like, hey, this place is like 500 meters or 750 meters away. No, I'm taking a Grab, and it would end up being like maybe 80 cents, maybe $1.80, for a long one. Really, really inexpensive. So Grab is definitely the way to go. But you could get scammed off of Grab. That's all I'm saying. We did, and if we got scammed once, that means he probably has done it to other people. So just be wary of that. What other crime-related things? Other than that, no. The Vietnamese people are nice. Kind of off-putting, like the Grab taxi drivers, unless it was hotel staff or the one laundry lady where we turned our laundry in. She was really nice and happy and smiles and all that stuff. And where we got massages, you had some customer relations and, nice and smiles. Hey, welcome, come on in, or whatever. But as far as like taxi drivers, things like that, there was this not real openly friendly. And I think maybe because it's a tourist town, because you have hundreds of thousands and millions of people coming through, that it just ends up checking the box and doing the job. But because we stayed in places and went to places multiple times, they kind of got to know us. And so they kind of warmed up and we said, hey, how you doing? Smile, hi, and all that stuff. They kind of opened up to us. But a little bit different, which was kind of similar to what we see here in Korea when you go and you get your food, whatever, it's not like, oh, welcome, come in. It was kind of similar, but a little bit different. But let's see, what else could we talk about? Vietnam. It was a great trip. I highly recommend it. I would definitely go again. I would definitely go during the dry season, so I wouldn't have to put up with the heat and humidity and the heat rashes and all that stuff, because I don't do well in heat. But even my wife was like, ugh. And there was actually Vietnamese people that were like store clerks and things like that. My wife was shopping. We got some bags, and even the store clerk there was like, it was like she was sweating, and it was like, okay, so they do sweat. But yeah, it can be miserable there. So we went in September. We got cheaper prices. Again, like one of the hotels was like $200 a night, but because we booked it 2.5 months in advance and there was a special discount, and it wasn't during the dry season, we were able to get it for $55 a night. So again, you can shuck and move and jive and move the cards around on the table to figure out how much you want to pay and everything. And it ended up, it was just kind of a good trip. Oh, I forgot the comments. Oh my gosh. Ferrithus is there. Sloan Seaman. So many people have tattoos. VTuber, Teamer Switch. I'm here just to see Benny. Benny. Oh, we didn't take Benny. Oh, we should have took Benny. Almost retired 1978. Talked about, in case you don't know, Benny is the stuffed animal. It's wild that you remembered that. Benny was the stuffed bear, the bear that we had when we came to Korea. And matter of fact, do we have bear? Yep, there's Benny. So there's Benny. So Benny was the bear that we took, and that's Benny when we went to Hawaii. We brought him along with us, and of course, when we came to Korea, we brought Benny there as well. So yeah, that's Benny back in the day when we, but we didn't take Benny this time. Benny, we should have took Benny. Benny, you know what? I feel bad that we didn't take Benny. Benny has been on some trips with us, and he was a good companion. On our next trip, we will take Benny. So, almost retired 1978. I am remiss. I am sorry that we didn't take Benny, and I got to go apologize to Benny because that would have been a cool thing. Benny would be a cool thing. I think next trip that we take, we will take Benny. So thank you for the reminder of that. So anyway, yeah, the Vietnam trip was great. Highly recommended. It's inexpensive, especially from Korea. It's only 4 hours away. Like I said, it was like $400 for me and the wife round trip. That's next to nothing. And hotel rooms, again, there's varying prices on, depending on your comfort level. Some hotels are better than others, obviously. 4-star hotels versus not 4-star hotels. Those things can, but it's a bed, it's a place to lay your head. And really, the majority of your day, you're going to be out sightseeing and doing other stuff. There's so much more to do in Vietnam. There was Ha Long Bay. We didn't get to go to that. And again, part of that was because my back went out. But we went to Sapa, went to Franzipan, we did the sites. I think we did a good trip. And we didn't want to put too much into it because then it would just be rush. And we don't like that. So the next time we go, I think we'll schedule during the dry season, be a little bit more expensive for hotels and lodging, but just back it up. Get it way in advance and you can get better deals on that stuff. So the other thing we're looking at is like during New Year's. Holy crow. On that lake in Sapa, fireworks and the whole, that would be awesome. So, that's very, very, very tempting. And even in Hanoi, that would be kind of an interesting little trip. But definitely do it during the dry season. Don't do it. If I could go back in time and just redo one thing with this trip that we did in September, would be to just one night in Hanoi and then just spend the rest of the time in Sapa because the weather was so much better. And then come back, spend one night, kind of rest and relax, get your last bowl of pho, your last coconut coffee, your last massage, and then the next day get on the plane and go back home. That's what I would end up doing on this trip. Future trips, definitely want to go during the dry season because even in Hanoi, the temperatures are much better during the November, December, January, February timeframe. So it wouldn't be as oppressive as it was when we went on this trip. So yeah, it was really, really good. Again, I'm surprised somebody remembered Benny. It must be a long-time watcher. Benny was Benny was with us when we left the United States to go to Hawaii when we retired, and we spent a year in Hawaii, and then after that year we came to Korea and retired here. And Benny's been in a closet the whole time. Maybe I should put Benny in the background here. Benny was good. But let's see. We also did the train thing. So if you remember, if you've ever seen pictures of the people, there's the train track where I showed the pictures on that. Matter of fact, we can take a look at that. Here that is. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And that train is the train that goes to Sapa. So yeah, there'll be a couple trains during the day or whatever. And I also found out there was supposedly there's other trains that offer more luxury accommodations than the one that we ended up getting. So we're going to look into that because, yeah, it was the first train going there was, I don't know, a little bit more dirty than we thought it would be. The bathrooms were kind of rough, and but at least they had bathrooms. But yeah, it was still a little rough, little rough. And then the rooms, again, as you saw, were really small. The hallways and some of that stuff was just the hallway in the train, and pretty much all the train cars that we saw were the same style of cars. They're basically the same. So as far as other train companies, we don't know exactly. There's some that say that they go to Sapa and it costs more and there's more luxury and so on and so forth. So we're going to check into that next time and pay a little bit more money. Because again, it was 10 hours. It was like 9 hours and 36 minutes to get to Sapa on the night train. So you get there and, you get there in the morning, you spend 10 hours on the train and you get off and it's morning. So there's that. I think that was good in the fact that you got to sleep and just, besides my back going out, that was kind of good. But on the way back, we got the train to come back, which was during the day, and you got to see the countryside. We got a bunch of videos on that, and I'm hoping to eventually get into Final Cut and edit all those together and make a good memory reel for, and throw that up onto the channel, and of course, so we can watch it as well. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. Street food is there. Some of the street food, you look at it and you're like, ooh, yeah, that doesn't look really clean. And, so there's those varying degrees. So if you've been in the military and you've been to third world countries, you know what I'm talking about. But it was a little bit of eye-opening for my wife. And so she's oh. So it was kind of interesting. But other than that, I mean, we had a great time. We had a real good time in Vietnam. It was just sometimes it was just way too hot, and we wanted to spend more time in Sapa. Could have done some more tours, but in retrospect, we'll definitely go during the dry season when the weather and the heat is better. Better as in cooler, and we'll definitely go back. But I highly recommend it. It was really good, and the coconut coffee was good. So the coconut coffee was good. We really enjoyed that. The egg coffee. It was good, but if I had to make a choice between coconut coffee and egg coffee, I would take the coconut coffee. We both love that, so I'm going to learn how to make that. I've got some recipes already, and so we're going to do the great experimentation process so we can have our own iced coconut coffee, which is incredible. Picked up some coffee beans from Vietnam, so that's kind of interesting. We'll do some on that. A little bit of taste and see how those beans taste. But basically a Robusta type of coffee bean and really, really thick. Rich, not sour, not bitter, so it's kind of a thing. I really enjoyed the coffee side of Vietnam and the egg coffee. I didn't think I would, but it's basically, it just whips up coffee with an egg yolk and you just whip it until it comes into like a creamy froth. And boom, there it is. So the egg coffee was good. It's a lot better than what I expected. But the coconut coffee was the bomb. That was definitely a bomb. And we both love that. My wife isn't really a coffee drinker, but she's becoming a coffee drinker because of this trip to Vietnam. So we really enjoyed it. It was a great trip. With that, we really enjoyed it. I got tons of video. I ended up taking most video on the phone, like 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 2-3 minutes. I've got some where it's a little bit longer, but I tried to keep the clips down low just for storage space and then make it a little bit easier for editing. But I also have some video on the Osmo Action here. Got some time lapses and stuff like that. So I'm going to eventually put all that stuff into editing and try to make a cool looking video and maybe split it up into the number of days. I'm not sure. So, but yeah, it was definitely a good trip. I think if we go back, we'll go during the dry season when the weather's better. We'll check out Ha Long Bay in Hanoi. You can do that. There's all kinds of day trips that you can take, and there's yacht cruises and this and that. So we'll probably do that. Massages. You definitely need to get massages. Foot massages are a thing, body massage, the whole 9 yards. In Hanoi, we actually had the best massage, which was YOLO massage. You only live once massage there in Hanoi, and it was awesome. Wife and I got the massage. Her table, my table, and then we had the ladies that were giving the massage, and oh my gosh, these ladies were like 4'10", and they put the hurt on us, but it was good. It was awesome, and it gets to the point of where you walk around. There's so much walking to be done in Sapa or Hanoi or wherever you're at. You'll get your steps in. And then at the end of the day, you just pop in and you pay a few bucks and boom, get your foot massage, your calves and your feet and, all of that stuff. Of course, you can get your back, you can do whole body, the whole 9 yards. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. It was like, and then you go back to the hotel and sleep, have good sleep. So yeah, the massages are a thing. We didn't get any special massages. That's not the place. That's not the massages we were looking for. We're looking for legitimate professional massages. So, we went to better looking places. But again, the prices on those things were like 150,000. Let's see. Let me see if I can find 150,000 dong. If I can learn how to type to USD. So like 150,000 dong was for a massage for like 30 or 45 minutes. It comes out to $5.68. So, $5, $7, something like that. It ends up that the prices over there, crazy inexpensive. I remember we went to Kong Cafe, which is a chain coffee store. It'd have like sandwiches and other stuff like that. We ended up getting a sandwich, large coconut coffee, small coconut coffee, and it was less than the price of a large coffee here in Korea. So, yeah. And again, it depends on where you go. There's varying prices, but yeah, very, very inexpensive. And a lot of people will eat out because of that price point is so low. So that's why you see a lot of people, they'll go out and they'll eat breakfast on a street food corner or a restaurant that has chairs and stuff like that on the sidewalk. They eat their breakfast there, their lunch and their dinner and the whole 9 yards. A lot of people eat out. They'll do their pho, they'll do their spring rolls, they'll do whatever. And again, it's pretty good food. And with that being said, Vietnam was a great trip. And I clocked in at 160.1 or 2 pounds when we left. I came back, I was 158.8. So I lost some water weight, a little bit. But yeah, it was just, food was great. Food was awesome. Great trip. We really enjoyed it, and we're definitely going to go back. We're going to take a break, though. Going to enjoy the fall weather here in Korea. And since we're talking about Korea, the one thing I want to talk about on the last thing, because the Johnny Somali, since we were talking about crime, I know it's bad segue. Awesome trip to Korea, and we're going to talk about Johnny Somali, but that's what we're going to end up doing. Found out some information about Johnny Somali, which is some interesting stuff. And so for those of you who don't know, he's kind of an idiot nuisance streamer that came to Korea, broke a bunch of laws, and has been here for over a year waiting for punishment because they keep adding charges, and he keeps digging his hole deeper and deeper by getting more charges. And the whole thing is he records himself live streaming, breaking the law, so it's like you can't refute it. It's all over the internet. And so we're going to take a look at that real quick. I just thought that was kind of funny. So here it is, the Johnny Somali, the idiot boy, idiot streamer, pleads guilty to criminal charges with new trial date set. Yeah, there's a new trial for Johnny, and he is not going to be a happy camper. That's the idiot. No, he doesn't have blonde hair. His real name is Ishmael, whatever. Ramzi Khalid Ishmael traveled to South Korea and continued in 2024. It's 2025, and it's almost over. When he left Japan, the streamer immediately landed in hot water, disrupting a 7-Eleven store, playing loud music, throwing food at people, and playing North Korea propaganda. He's disrupted businesses, which is a crime. And he has been stuck in Korea for a number of months due to the ongoing legal process, and he could face up to 12 years in prison due to 8 different charges against him. Yeah. Somali's an idiot. RKI, Ramzi Khalid Ismail. He took the name Johnny Somali, and the thing is he once said, now he's a liar, so I don't know. He says he's not Somali. His dad is Somali, supposedly, but he hates his dad. I don't know. There's some issues. He pled not guilty to some other charges, but yeah, he's in trouble. He pled guilty to a new obstruction charge and changed his not guilty plea on the third obstruction charge due to a witness showing up. The next trial is October 29th, 25, which is right around the corner. And this guy, Legal Mindset, pled guilty to a new obstruction charge and changed his not guilty on the third obstruction because the witness showed up. So obstruction of business, which is kind of like a minor crime, he pled guilty on 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of those were guilty. And then minor offense act, which is kind of like a misdemeanor charge. So he went around with a rotting fish and was, harassing people. That's fine. 100,000 won or 30 days of detention. Another minor offense for loud music on the metro and trains and stuff like that. So he's guilty on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that he has pled guilty to. And notice up here on the obstruction of business charges, there's the disrupting of the 7-Eleven. Let's make this bigger. As you can see there, disrupting a bus system, disrupting a ride at Lotte World. So they actually filed a case against him. And then there was North Korean propaganda on a bus. He gets up to 5 years imprisonment or fine of up to $50 million. Now, I don't know if these are cumulative. I don't think so. I think they all can be, just 5 years, but it doesn't look good for him, especially because all of these, the first 4 of this obstruction of business, what ends up happening is now he's a convicted criminal in Korea. So the future punishment for additional cases that happen later on, he will be considered a criminal, which during the punishment phase will be taken into consideration of saying, well, this isn't like you're a first offense, we're going to let you off light. You are a convicted criminal in Korea because you pled guilty, so that could have some influence on the judge on whether they punish him harshly or less harshly. So anyway, 30 days detention, so he could get 30 days for each one of those. Now, the interesting thing is that Johnny thought he was just going to do these things. He'll get like a $500 fine. Boom, he'll jet and he'll be out of Korea. He actually tried to leave Korea. This is an interesting thing because what he ended up doing was he had these charges and he's like, oh crap, I need to get out. Well, he tried to go to the airport. They wouldn't let him go. And then he went to the U.S. Embassy and he said, oh, I lost my passport. I need an emergency passport. So the embassy gave him an emergency passport, emergency issue passport. He goes to the airport and they're like, no, you're pending charges. You can't leave Korea. It doesn't matter if you have an emergency passport or your regular passport, you're still Ramzi Khalid Ismail. You still cannot leave Korea until these cases are done, which is weird because you have people that just hide out in Korea with that period of whatever to escape the punishment, which begs the question, is Ramsey going to try to hide in Korea so he doesn't have to do his prison time? I don't know. Right? He would have to make money, and to make money he has to do streaming, and to do streaming people would find out where he's at, police would be able to find him. So I don't think he's going to go that route. He could, because he's monumentally stupid, but it is what it is. The other interesting thing, no, that's not what the one I wanted. The Minor Offenses Act for the rotting fish, the loud music on the bus, those are guilty. These two here, the deep fake count 1 for a Korean YouTuber, and then deep fake count number 2 for Bong Bong, which is also a YouTuber. She's a female, and what Ramsey ended up doing, this is an interesting thing, is that with the deep fake, in case you don't know what deepfake video is, you have a video that is AI generated with you and somebody else. And in this case, there was a video of Ramsey and this girl Bong Bong, and that they were kissing. So it was all AI generated, and Ramsey showed this on his feed. Now, in the prior court that he went to, the judge had asked, well, hey, do you have anything that could prove your innocence? And the lawyer's like, no, we don't have anything. Because again, Ramsey films everything, and the prosecution has copies of everything. So they have a copy of the video where Ramsey shows the deepfake video of him kissing this apparently underage person that's not an adult. And again, even if she was an adult and she is an adult, it is against, she didn't agree to it. And kissing is considered a sexual act here in Korea. So that's why it's a deepfake video, and he can get up to 7 years for each count. But again, they're not like 7 years for this one, 7 years for this one, 7 years for another. It's weird. It's a little different on how they do their punishment here. But with all of this stuff, it's looking at possibly 12 years. But he still needs to go to court for that. And the interesting thing is there's no defense. His defense during the last court case was, and in some of the videos that Johnny said, is that, well, I didn't know it was a deepfake video. I didn't make the video, which could be true. He didn't make the video, but he showed the video, and he knew it was him, and he knew it was a deepfake video. He didn't get permission to post it from the other Korean YouTuber. And so, yeah, that's against the law, because in the Korean law, it actually talks about that if you make and or distribute or disseminate deepfake videos, you're guilty. And so during the last time that he was in court, the judge asked, well, do you have this or that? Do you have anything proving your innocence or whatever? And it's like, no. And then there was this going back and forth between the prosecutor and the Ramsey's defense attorney, which I feel sorry for the guy having to defend somebody as brain dead, as stupid as Ramsey Khalid Ismail, Johnny Somali. But the prosecutor's like, well, this is the deepfake video. And then the lawyer's like, well, but he didn't make it. And, blah, 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 blah. And he was drunk. And it's like, okay, he didn't make it, but he showed it. He disseminated it. And that's, according to the letter of the law, yeah, you're guilty. So basically, in the last court case that they had, Johnny's lawyer sunk him. Basically admitted, yeah, he showed it. And the prosecutor asked, so you're saying that he did show this deepfake video? And if you show the video and it's you kissing somebody that you know that you didn't physically kiss, you know that it was a deepfake video, boom, you're guilty. So he's already cooked. But the next court case is going to be 29 October, which is a few days after my birthday. So that'll be an interesting little thing that we got there. But we have the Korean female Bong Bong deepfake video. And then there was another Korean YouTuber, a male, where there's a deepfake video for that. And it's not good on that either. So, and it's all recorded. So what he did was wrong, and he can say, well, I didn't know. He's trying to play ignorance is bliss. But that's not going to be bliss because of all the previous guilty pleas that he has put in. And even then, on his streaming, he still says, oh, this is stupid, this is BS. He ridiculed and insulted the judge. He threatened the judge's wife on live stream, which had been forwarded to the prosecution and the judge. So I don't know. Ramsey is just kind of a special kind of stupid. You go online, even if you're drunk or not, and you threaten the judge and the prosecutor and the bailiff, and you call Korean court system stupid, and this is the same judge who is going to issue your punishment. That's a special kind of retard there. Yeah, it is not going to go well for Ramsey. So hope he's looking at 12 years, and personally, I hope he gets his 12 years. Like I said, I've worked in prisons and for over 11 years in U.S. in the state of Colorado, and medium R prisons, with murderers and rapists and all kinds of people. It just child, ugh, yeah, yeah. Prison is not fun. And the interesting thing is that I really hope that he gets 12 years, 10 or 12 years in a Korean prison, because it'll all be served out at once. Some of the charges, he will get manual labor. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, because he will go to a foreigner-only prison here in Korea, which is up in Cheonan. So that's where people thinking, oh, he's going to go to a Korean prison. The Korean inmates are going to beat him up and whatever. No, because they have a foreigner prison here. At best, he could get beat up by other foreigners, and the majority of criminals in the foreign prison are Chinese. So, but if he's there, he's not going to be able to stream. He's not going to be doing anything. And so 10 years, I think, would be good, because if they don't nail him, I mean, even 5 years, 6, 7 years would be good. I think that would be a good deterrent, because you've already had nuisance streamer coming to Korea, seeing that Johnny Somali is making money here by streaming and doing stupid stuff, and thinking that the language barrier would prevent them from being prosecuted. Korea really needs to put the hammer down on Johnny. That's what it comes down to. Because otherwise, if they don't, and it's just a slap on the wrist, what's going to happen is that's going to be a green flag for all of the other nuisance streamers to come to Korea and harass and break the laws of Korea. And it's just not cool. So again, I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully Korea will do what's right. But again, we've seen some things in Korea where it's like, how is this even possible? Like when we were talking about those laws and that law of prescription, period of prescription under Article 78 of the Criminal Act, that you can get tried, punished, and then if you just hide out for a certain amount of time, depending on the severity of your crime, and that time passes, you don't have to do your prison time. How is that even a thing? I don't understand that. So there's a lot of stuff going on, here in Korea. Everything from, asylum seekers to, criminals on the run to, legalizing tattoos, virtual Kpop bands suing people for thinking that they're ugly and winning in a Korean court, which is insane. And of course, our trip to Vietnam, which was probably the best thing that happened out of all of this. And that's what we got going on. So that's being retired in Korea. A lot of interesting things. We've really enjoyed our trip to Vietnam. That was probably the best thing. Legalized tattooing, that's good because it brings some safety issues and practices. But in all honesty, the Korean tattoo artists that I've seen here are already they're practicing good hygiene. They're doing everything right as it should be. So, that transition and getting licensed and certified to be legal in Korea as a tattooist, I don't think they're going to have any problems whatsoever. Which begs the question, for military service members, will they be allowed to get tattoos? Technically, all tattoo shops are verboten for military service members. But with this new law being passed, will it still be illegal for military service members? Who tons of service members get tattoos off base? I've seen it. I don't know. I don't think that will change. I think it'll be just like the United States. It'll be like, they'll turn a blind eye to it. But again, because it is a medical procedure. Almost Retired says the exchange rate is 14.09. Really? Wow. That. Korea exchange rate to USD. So $1, what does that come out to? $14.09. Wow. We need to go change some money. That is an excellent exchange rate. And usually normal should be around 1,100, maybe 1,200, about 1,100 won per dollar. So now that it's 1409.25, holy crow. Just to give some reference from that, it was about 1,500 when they had the bailout in, what was it, 1997? They had the bailout by the World Bank or whatever it was that did that. The exchange rate was almost, I think it peaked at 15 something, 1,500 some won per dollar. So 1,400 is an excellent time to exchange money if you have US dollars. So I think we're going to be going to the bank today. Thank you, Almost Retired. I am definitely going to hit up the bank. And it's Saturday, so the bank should still be open. Yes, it is. Yes, we are going to hit the bank today. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. So yeah, if you want to get a good exchange rate, do it today. Do it today. That 1409, that is an excellent exchange rate. With that being said, I think we're going to finish off with that. And I know some of you are saying I'm going to leave, but
No. Wait. Wait.
But we have to go. Again, this has been kind of a long video, and I kind of enjoy doing this stuff, kind of sharing our experiences of what happens here in Korea, our trips and whatever, 3D printing and models, all of that. So the best thing that you could end up doing is liking and subscribing to the channel. With that being said, let's get back to this picture here. And let me adjust something like this to kind of put me in frame there. If you want to contact me for whatever reason, doesn't matter if it's hobby, Korea stuff, just want to say hi, there's the email address. Usually I answer emails within 1 or 2 days if I'm not too busy. And so there's that. If you enjoyed the video, you can buy me a coffee, link in the box, whatever. But the best thing that you can end up doing is liking and subscribing to the channel. So I would really appreciate that. All the people over here, they bought me coffee, big coffee drinker, and anything that we get from that goes back into the channel to put better production, like I've got lights and all kinds of cool stuff going on, to just kind of share our life and our experience and some of the hobbies and the stuff that I do in Korea. So with that, we're going to end it out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate every one of you. Again, like and subscribe. That would be the best thing you do. Don't worry about the coffee. That doesn't really matter. It's not like I'm trying to live off of coffee donations. Somebody recommended it and we did it, and then a bunch of people did it, and now it's kind of like slowed down. So if you want to do it, it's cool, but the best thing, the absolute best thing, is to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That would be what I would really want you to do. So with that, I got to get some breakfast because I'm starving, and it's 9:40. I think we're going to go out and get something to eat at local bistro, so we're going to do that, and we're going to hit the bank and get the exchange rate. So thank you, Almost Retired, Ferthus, all the other people that are watching, have watched or going to watch, have watched whenever you watch. We'll see you on the next video. Peace. Good stuff.